I'm Cindy Dykstra, and this is an overview of Drupal 8's adoption of SMACSS for CSS architecture and file organization, along with some of the best practices outlined in the documentation at Drupal.org. You can check out the links at the end of the video for reference. SMACSS stands for Scalable and Modular Architecture for CSS, and it's a guide to CSS structure written by Jonathan Snook. The CSS architecture for Drupal 8 aims to apply emerging best practices for CSS, and that includes the SMACSS system of modular CSS architecture. The goals for Drupal 8 are to make CSS predictable, reusable, maintainable, and scalable. Keeping those goals in mind, Drupal 8 will categorize CSS rules by applying the SMACSS system to rule sets and file organization. The four main categories for SMACSS in Drupal 8 are base, layout, component, and theme. Base rules are to be used for styling HTML elements only. Layout rules are for styling the arrangement of elements on the page, including any grid systems you might use. Components, which is actually referred to as modules in the SMACSS guide, are the reusable user interface elements, and they should form the bulk of Drupal CSS. Best practices for component rules indicate that instead of relying on markup structure and overly generic class names, component elements should be defined using their own classes. A component's element or sub-objects should be defined using their own classes, prefixing them with the component's name followed by 2 underscores. Using that same methodology, create component variants explicitly, adding a suffix with the variant name preceded by 2 dashes. State rule sets are for applying component styling for transient changes like hovering links that deal with the component's appearance. Some best practices for state rules say that styles should be separated from behavior by using dedicated classes for JavaScript so that we can modify our styling classes without breaking our JavaScript and vice versa. Prefix classes used for JavaScript with JS hyphen and avoid applying inline style using JavaScript using a state class name whenever possible. The last category is theme styles. These will be used for the purely visual styling such as border, colors and backgrounds, font properties, etc. These rules should be separated enough from a component structure so that omitting them won't break the functionality or usability. The CSS file organization will also follow a SMACSS style of categorization in Drupal 8, organizing the CSS directory file structure into base, layout, component, and theme style sheets. We could also break them out further by using the structure as subdirectories of the CSS directory. So, for example, starting with the CSS directory, the base subdirectory would contain style sheets for HTML elements and any reset and normalized CSS files. The layout subdirectory would then hold various layout and grid system style sheets. In the component subdirectory, we could drop our style sheets pertaining to the reusable components like buttons and tabs. Any state rules and media queries ought to be included in the style sheet of the component that they apply to. And finally, the theme subdirectory would then contain those style sheets with the visual styles.